right, welcome back to the 52 Launch Podcast. I'm Peter Drakulich.
Dan Gagne.
And today we have a very special guest, Nikki Currier.
Hi, all.
All right. So Nikki is our mystery guest, but Nikki is also someone who is a very valued person on our team. She has helped us and our clients navigate all the online marketing stuff. And I'll just start by saying when we met Nikki, she said we weren't ready for her, and my God, she was right.
I think at the same time, it empowered us to make sure that we got her because our egos didn't want to get in the way there, right?
No, exactly.
We had to have her.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's been about a year, and, Nikki's helped build our clients. But, look, I just want to kind of go back and just help everybody understand the dynamics of, first, what you do and, what online marketing means. So, if you want to take it away, go for it.
Sure. So online marketing in general means, basically setting up your entire storefront to be able to sell online, whether that's putting ads through Facebook or Google, as well as just getting your organic results to happen inside Google. So when somebody types in your product name that you come up, it also means being on Amazon and making sure that Amazon is ranking your products. So I have been in this industry for 15 years and worked on a number of different types of products, and each one is just a little bit different. There's certainly something that you learn from that, many years of experience, but each process is just a little bit different from the next because it's a different audience. It's a different kind of selling point that we're trying to get at. So really what I do is I try to understand the audience that's going to be selling the product, or that's going to be buying the product rather, and the message that we want to deliver to them in order to sell the product appropriately. I find them online, deliver that message, and then make sure that they have the easiest path to convert.
So I'm going to segue to that. So, because again, for me, the number one challenge is at the website development stage with our clients. I think most of our clients believe that a website's supposed to tell everything about them and their product, and it's more ego-driven. Speak to that process of what the website really needs to do.
And did they even call it a website these days?
I don't know.
Yeah, no one calls it a website. It's a landing page, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, people don't read at the end of the day. Once people become real brand fanatics, maybe they'll do a little bit more reading. But unless you're selling something that is super techy, there's really not a lot of need for tons of words. And yeah, it can be ego-driven a lot of times. In the old school world of doing advertising, people used to like to say that businesses would buy billboards near the owner's house just to make them feel like, their product was really out there, right? Because if the owner could see the billboard every single day, they would feel good about it. And a lot of times that's kind of what a website ends up being. But truthfully is you want to get the valuable selling points out to the people who are going to be purchasing your product. So that means that you do have to share a good amount of details about what your product has, but sometimes those nitty gritty things that maybe and understand as this is the key part about the product, the customer really just doesn't care about it, or maybe they care to hear it in a different way. So they don't want to know that, if they're buying a blade, they don't want to know about the micro precision of the blade. They want to know, can this slice through a tomato? Is this going to stay sharp for a long period of time? So the language just has to be a little bit more accessible than what somebody who's, really their baby is this product and they're putting it out there. It just needs to be a little bit tweaked and kind of flipped to what the consumer would want to hear.
Yeah, and I couldn't say that better myself. And that's really, customers listen up. That's exactly it. It's about the consumer, what they want to know about your product, not what we want to tell them. And the more they understand, the quicker they convert to a sale. But speaking to that, so here, we're going to stay on the website topic. So when you're writing website copy, or when our team is writing website copy, who are we really writing for? Is it the algorithm, or is it the person reading the copy?
That's a great question. So I instruct everybody that I've ever taught how to write website copy, and the way I write it myself is to write first for the user and then to go back and edit for the algorithm. Because truthfully, AI has come such a far. When Google was first around, it was, extremely smart, but it was looking just for keyword strings. Now, AI is so predictive that the algorithms can tell when your language isn't flowing the way a normal person would write, and therefore they're going to actually ding you for that. So if we write a sentence and then, let's say we'll keep going on the idea of using a knife, right? If we're saying, the greatest knife around, and a keyword we want to rank for is actually chef knife. Well, maybe we go back and change that to the greatest chef knife around, right? And we've been a little more diligent about kind of which word we used there, but we're not going to say this chef knife is the greatest chef knife in the whole chef knife community, right? Like that's just not the way people would write.
Yeah, and for the reasons there, our audience can go look up, what is it, Penguin and Panda algorithm. That was like 7 years ago where they stopped that. So, no, all right, that's great. So let's talk about ad spend. I don't mean to cut you off if you get something to add.
No, I'm just wondering if our audience would know what algorithm, what that would even mean.
Good.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You want to
so an algorithm, I'll give a swing at it. An algorithm is basically a set of computer programming that allows the search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing, Ask Jeeves way back in the day, it allows them to determine what the context of the website is about. So a lot of people can liken these algorithms to somebody reading an encyclopedia, right? Or somebody reading the index or the table of contents of a book. They're going to read the table of contents and understand one level of it, and then they're going to read the actual pages and understand another level of it. And that's what these algorithms are doing. The spiders, this is what Google sends out, is these spiders to your website that read everything, and then they compute based on the keywords that you have there, the number of people who are linking to your website, a whole different number of factors, which we don't actually know. Probably 50 to 60, maybe even 70% of the factors that they use are just completely unknown. But they use all these factors to be able to say, do you deserve to be in position 1 on Google, or do you deserve to be in position 1 million?
Excellent.
Perfectly said. So again, for the people out there listening, what I understand, you just can't put up a website or a landing page and think someone's magically going to appear on your site or your page. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that's very critical and extremely complicated for the layman to figure out. So thanks for sharing that with us.
No worries. Yeah, I often refer to it as there's about 1,000 micro decisions that have to be made. And then at the end, somebody sees the website, but they don't necessarily see the 1,000 micro decisions that made going into that. And it really is, it's a work of art at the end of the day, both technically and visually.
Yeah. So yeah, let's continue on the marketing aspect, what you just said in terms of, where, I mean, so I'll just put a phrase out there. Why do people think that Facebook and Amazon marketing doesn't work? Right? Like, I think the micro details are in there as well.
You want my real answer for that?
I think Peter's
my real answer is because they probably did it wrong. Or they are reading the data incorrectly. So oftentimes people will go and say, I'm going to spend $5 a day on Facebook and, run it for 7 days and nothing happened. Well, okay, there's a lot that went into that. You only probably reached about 5 people. And so we don't need to hit statistical significance by any means. You need to know more than what 5 people thought about your website before you make a decision on whether or not the channel actually worked or not. And then also, talk about 1,000 micro decisions. The number of checkboxes and things I have to put in order to start a campaign is probably close to 100. And that's one single campaign to target one single audience on one single channel. The chances that you maybe made a mistake is pretty high. And what I often find is people just don't know their audience well enough to be able to target it specifically enough to make the money worthwhile. So for example, if you were selling something to women in general, well, great, you can target women, but there's a lot of us out there, right? And not every single person is going to be interested in your product. So you have to narrow it down. You have to say, well, we're talking about women who are over the age of 25, who are, in a higher income bracket, who, show interest in, let's say, hair care products, right? So these are the things that we have to kind of narrow down to. And then we can say, all right, we've hit this number of people and this has happened. Did it work or did it not work? But most times people just kind of give it a quick glance and say, oh, well, we tried it and it didn't work. And that's not really the true case.
All right, so I lied to you. I did say that I wasn't going to try to trick you at the beginning.
Okay.
But this is a loaded question. So in your experience, 15 years of doing this, is there an average number of dollars that need to be spent across, I know it's a very broad question, but is there an average number to really get an idea as to whether this product's going to do well? Or any client's product's going to do well? Like, what's that magic number, if there even is one?
Yeah, I think that there is certainly a baseline number that you have to spend before you can make more decisions. And really, it's not really the spend number that makes the most difference. It's the number of clicks to your website that makes the difference. But we can roughly say, like on Facebook, most clicks cost somewhere between 50 cents and $2, right? So we could say that cost is tied to that by saying, like, okay, if we spend $100, we'll probably get 100 people. And truthfully, you need about 1,000 clicks before you can say this worked or this didn't work. Because you have to remember that we're also going to split that 1,000 clicks between 2 different campaigns or 2 different ad sets. So we're not just testing, does this whole channel work? We're testing, does this creative work? And we're testing, does this audience work? Because if we just put all our eggs into one basket, unless there's already like a predefined market for your product, which most likely we're breaking the mold with a lot of our products. But unless there's a predefined audience, you have to test the market. We test something like moms versus teachers, right? They might have overlap there, but we have to test like which one resonates better with our target audience. And with our product. And that's really the beauty of digital marketing, is you get so much data back, you get so much learning back. Even when you fail, you learn so much. And that's the beauty of online marketing, is that you just have to kind of keep failing forward until you find the right thing for you. Great. So I'd say about $1,000 in roughly 28 to 30 days is probably my best recommendation for a minimum spend.
Great. Right. And if you spent $2,000 or $3,000, would it be faster data collection?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yes, exactly.
It's not really
it's just how fast you want to move.
Right. So that's where some of our bigger companies, I can't name them here, but they said they spend $30,000 in a couple hours to get just the data set, right? So
yeah. And I've worked also with higher education, and their price per click is probably closer to from $5 to $25. Like, they have to spend so much more to be able to test something out, because they just don't have the same number of data points. So the faster you get your data points, the faster you can learn.
So let's talk about the data points, Canadian data points, whatever you guys say. When you get the collection of data points, how confident are you that you can scale up when you start getting the right data points?
So I guess it depends on where you're starting from. If I'm going from $1,000 a month to $1,500 a month, I'm pretty confident that my scale up can work there. And if I'm going from $1,000 to $100,000, well, I've got a little bit more guesswork going on, because just like when we were talking about the algorithms for organic search, so when Google is ranking you on their search engine, that's organic search. Facebook ads, they have their own algorithm. They're learning in kind of choosing who to put your ad in front of. And if you make a change, like upping your budget, then that changes the algorithm, right? So if we're making small scale changes, we can be pretty confident about how quickly it's going to scale up. There's also other key data points, like if our budget kind of maxes out super early in the day, and we have a high conversion rate. So that's a high number of people bought the purchase to how many people clicked. So if 100 people clicked and 20 people bought the product, well, that's a pretty high conversion rate. and we've maxed out our budget super early in the day, well, I can safely say, I can just up this budget right now and get you more revenue. And that's a pretty easy thing. If we're saying that we're not maxing out our budget, but people are, are maybe at a 2% conversion rate or a 3% conversion rate, so every 3 out of 100 people, it might take a little bit more optimizing for me to actually scale it up.
So is 2 and 3%, is that an average conversion, or is that really good?
2 to 3% is pretty average for an established brand. If we're looking at brand new products, you're probably closer to a 1% conversion rate or under, because the thing that's tricky about online marketing, and really marketing in general, is if your product doesn't have an already predefined audience, like if you're selling knives, well, people already buy knives, right? Like that's not a problem. You just jump in with all the knife producers and there's people there to purchase your product. But if you're selling something that really kind of breaks the mold, you have to educate people about that problem and the solution and the product in general. So your conversion rate is going to be so much lower in the beginning because people are just figuring it out. They're just saying, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, that might be helpful for me. And it usually takes somewhere between 5 to 10 touch points before somebody will actually make a purchase if the product is completely brand new. So it's a decent amount of money to spend, but you have to remember too that then if that product works for that person, you start the ripple effect of everybody talking about it and it kind of gaining this natural momentum.
Right. And I know this has nothing to do with Nikki, but it's why we tell our clients, Peter, that we like products that are just a better mousetrap versus something that's literally brand spanking new, because like Nikki said, education is expensive and takes a long time. So products, for those of you out there listening, products that have a better mousetrap or are a better mousetrap, those are the ones that do really well.
They also have to have a defined category, because if you have no category for it on Amazon, you're educating further back than where we're talking about. So, but look, I'll tell you the opposite side of that, and just you can kind of agree or disagree on that. But to me, I look at it this way: the limitation, right? So someone might say, well, why don't I just buy something that's already being made and compete on Amazon or do better ads on Facebook? And that's one alternative. The only thing that makes an inventor that brings their own product to market is that they are the only source of that product online. So at some point you go through this pain point, but now you dominate because you own it and there's nobody else that has your product. So that's the trade-off. So really it's getting to that, it's getting to those little successes that you see. And I personally believe that, and again, because I've proven with Nikki's help that, look at every product that does succeed, right? There's bad products out there. They sell every day. You just got to define your audience, find them. And once you understand the data and where to spend the money, when to spend the money, and how to spend the money, you can sell product. Right now, it's just.
And I was just going to say that to your point there is that it's a long-term game, right? Like you ask, is there what do you say to people who say that Facebook doesn't work or whatever? You probably didn't do it for long enough. You probably didn't gain enough momentum, and that's really what it is. You start out in that education period, and then you kind of move through the different phases. And if there is already a target audience for you, then you're just so much farther along in that timeline. And one of the ways that I can always tell whether or not there is already an audience for it is, are people already searching for this on Google or on Amazon? And you all know that I have a zillion and a half tools that I use to be able to show that data and figure all that sort of stuff out. And that's my job. That's what I've practiced over these 15 years. But if there's somebody who's already searching for your product, well then, getting in there with your ads is going to be so much easier.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think, I'll just make a comment, and that's where, again, this is not something that the average person without experience and doing this for 15 years can do. And again, managing an ad spend in itself and knowing when to do what you do and managing that data, that's how you succeed. And if you're not, I consider this a day trading position. It is constantly looking at it and understanding when and what to do and how to accept that knowledge, good or bad. I think bad information is good, because then you know what not to do, just as much as good information, because then you just spend money at it. I think there is no more general advertising in the world, and I come from the traditional advertising world, right, where you just spend money, you mass audience, and you take your slice of the pie. Today's world is just about targeting exactly who you're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, so I just want to ask, just to, I guess, clarify the funnel, right? And I know, like in my day, it was called something else, but from my understanding, the funnel is, it starts with an impression somewhere. Maybe it starts further back. Where does it go from there? And like, as we talked about conversions, and let's just define what that process looks like online and how important it is to know exactly where in that process or funnel you're failing or you're succeeding.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do agree that it starts with an impression, right? And the impression can be really anywhere. That impression could be a Facebook ad. That impression could be the product in somebody else's home. An impression has to happen at some point. Somebody has to learn about your product for the first time.
And I'll just back
and then
that
we
up.
kind of
Someone has to create that impression, right? So we have to create the content to make that picture or develop that. I mean, someone has to know how to demonstrate the product. So that's even pre-funnel, but at the funnel, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just clicked.
That's okay. No, but that's a really great point, because each step that you move down in the funnel is, it's some form of a conversion, right? The person who saw the image then might go click on your website, or click on the link that's with the image, or they might go and search in Google and say, what is this product? So to get people from seeing your image to then taking that action, that's all the creative process that we go through of making sure that the photos look really kind of stellar and they're explaining what the product does. That's all why that's so important, because it's not just seeing it and making it look pretty. We have to cause an action to happen. So usually it's impression, and then next on the list is some sort of click or a search to go to your website. And then after the click happens, it's adding the item to their cart, and then going through the checkout process, and then finally landing on the actual checkout page of, putting in their money and being happy with their purchase. And each point is a place where you lose people, and it's a point for you to focus on and optimize, so then that way you lose less people. Impressions to click we're looking at is the imagery saying what we want it to be. Do they have what we call landing page disappointment? So did they see this image and think we were going to get to the page and see something different? And that's landing page disappointment. People are just going to bounce right out of there. And then from the click to adding it to the cart, did we do a good enough job explaining what the product is and selling the product? And did we make the add to cart button the right color, the right size, and the right place? All of these things make a huge difference. Even the imagery that's next to the button itself can cause a disruption in flow. So all of those little micro decisions, cause the person to put it into their cart. And then when it's in their cart, do they go to click out and, go check out, but then they see that there's a shipping cost. So, you're going to lose people there too, right? So optimizing all of those different places, especially when you're getting up and running, having free shipping, or at least the minimal shipping that you can, is so important, because you really need to kind of create that groundswell of people who have your product in hand, and then you can build off of those people. And so it's really an interesting thing to look at funnels and understand them. I certainly enjoy being able to optimize and getting a company to the point where they can worry about those types of things, because we do our best to make sure that standards are set right from the get-go. But until we start feeding all those impressions in the top and then those clicks, well, then we can't really optimize your other conversion pieces. But yeah, the funnel is really an important part of online marketing, and it happens in the real world too. You just don't see it. There's just not enough data to be able to prove it.
Well, so I'm going to tell you. So let's talk about the real world versus that, because to me, this is where I will take consumer behavior or understanding consumer behavior over design, almost as maybe it's a 51-49, but you, like when you walk into a grocery store, they know you go left, you follow the aisles, you go between. They don't set up the grocery stores or any of the retail chains based on, it is a funnel. It is no different than a website to me. So the impression is I walk through, when I walk through the door, that's the click. Now I'm walking through the gauntlet of the decision-making process to get my card out and check out. It's no different than it is online. And this is where, again,
every high item high margin item is at eye level in a grocery store. Anything that's on the bottom shelf, they don't want you to buy. So you're right.
Yeah. So again, this is for us.
It's rigged.
I'll plug a little 52 launch. This is where we saw the value in Nikki. It was really the understanding of, like, look, I'm a consumer behaviorist. I've been in retail all my life, but at the end of the day, translating that to online in the funnel and doing this and that, it's all about the optimization of that funnel. It's about making sure that things are placed and that the process is quick, because 99% of our clients have a single product. There's no point in confusing the matter. Like you said, the landing page disappointment, something as simple as if your packaging looks different than your website color scheme, you're out, right? Everything has to match up. And again, so we get asked all the time, well, can we do a pre-sale? Can we just show a 3D prototype on there? And look, we've learned in the last 5 years that consumers are smart enough to know when they see a unfinished product to not trust it, versus a package or a product that is in people's hands or the people using. And to me, third-party content in that demonstration it's got to be real. You can't fake that anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that if you want to go on the route of doing a 3D model or anything like that, you better be prepared to put in a lot of effort and a lot of money to be able to bring people along during your development process. Certainly you've seen products do stuff like that on Kickstarter, but what you don't see is the financial backers that are required to do that type of campaigning on Kickstarter, because it takes thousands and thousands of dollars to get all of this out there for a small number of people that are going to be willing to buy pre and actual launch. And I mean, the truest part of this is go look on Amazon and look in reviews and how many people comment saying the box looked different than what online than what I received. Like, people take time and effort to go and comment on that because it's so startling for them. So these are the things that just are really important. And I absolutely love, correlating the online world to the offline shopper, because you're right. You go, you get your cart, you're putting things in it. That eye level is so important, right? We look at kind of above the scroll. It used to be above the fold when people bought things in newspapers. But it's really like, if things are above the scroll, that's what you're going to get. That's probably 95% of the people who come to your website, that's all they'll see is just whatever is above the scroll. And then it's, clicking around, and that's people touching things, right? You go to buy towels, you're going to touch them, you're going to feel them, you're going to see how they look in your hands. When people are clicking on your website, that's what they're doing too. But the important part is that if we can get them all the questions that they thought they would have, there are all those barriers to conversion right off the bat, it's so much easier to make that impulse decision of add to cart and buy now. The longer we leave them on your website, the more likely we are to actually use them.
Yeah, great point.
And so look, that's the exact formula, because everyone thinks, oh, sales is dead. It really isn't. It's just moved, right? So like you said, it's the touching, it's getting them to convincing. Well, the convincing really is overcoming the objections that we know they're going to have. So again, understanding consumer behavior before someone even lands on the website is one of the most important things. I mean, getting them there is probably the most important thing. But then, if your website's not converting, it's simply because you are not demonstrating trust that the consumer believes that they land on the right page, or that the objection that they had about, well, maybe. And I really think the second objection for most clients or most products is, how easy is it used? Like, is it complicated when I get it here, or is it easy? Like, I think people want to buy something and use it and enjoy it right away.
Yep. Yeah, and it's envisioning themselves using it, right? It's, does this fit into my lifestyle? Is this the right product for me? And, maybe some people would look at it and call it stereotyping, but you have to have an image of your target audience using your product on your website. They have to see themselves reflected back, because they can't hold the product. So they have to watch somebody else holding it. And that's really so important. And I think one of the craziest examples I can give to you of this is, a long time ago, I was working with a credit card company, and they wanted to run ads targeting business cards because this was a business credit card. And I said, well, what do you think a business card means to most people in the world? Because I'll tell you, it means the thing that has your name on it that you hand out at conferences. And they were just so blown away by that concept. And they said, if we send people who click on a business card ad to your website, nobody will buy anything, right? It's understanding that consumer behavior. It's understanding that if this is a product that is above a certain price point threshold, we have to target people who have a higher income level. And it's not because we don't want other people to have it. It's because that's going to be the audience that will actually purchase it from you. And that's going to give you the best ROI.
Yeah. So look at this has been a great 30 minutes or 25 minutes where we're at, and I know your time is valuable. So I'm just going to surmise that, anybody that thinks that getting a product to market is easy, it is not. There's experts out there that we have already encompassed. We're an A through Z process, and really our next level at 52 Launch is launching our products through Nikki and our team that helps Nikki. And it's our goal to get everybody to revenue, and this is not something that I would undertake on my own. In fact, we have products that we own that, again, I don't want to say Nikki, we're a customer of Nikki's, but we go through the same process that our clients do for products that we own, and it's challenging at times, right? Like I would say so. I understand the frustration, but it's just there's so much more behind it. And I think you summed it up best with the, it's the 1,000 micro decisions that go into every level of the product development, the actual content that we're going to create, and then each step of the funnel. Or is it still a funnel? Is that what they call it these days?
It's a funnel.
It's a funnel. Yeah. All right.
Well, the good news is
we can call it a cyclone some days.
A cyclone, yeah, that's probably better.
Is after our clients graduate and their product is shipped into a fulfillment center, a little prior to that, they're talking to Nikki, and that's when we feel the client's real happy at that point because they finally have gotten their product to the hang. And we talk so much about Nikki that they're kind of sick of us saying, "Oh, we're going to get you to Nikki. You just hang in there." Generally, when they get to you, they're real happy because they're going to start seeing results.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing.
We appreciate that, and certainly we appreciate all of our clients understanding that this is, this is a great next step when they get into your hands, and that they're in good hands when they do. So,
awesome.
I think I'm going to drop a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just say that on the next episode, we're going to talk to Nikki about how easy it is to set up Amazon. There's a lot of sarcasm in that because, I think that's our next topic that we'll talk about is just we've had comments about people saying, the average Joe and Tom, Dick, and Sally can get on Amazon and, how can it be so difficult? So we'll save that for another day and a much bigger
actually,
topic.
that'll be for another week.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take that long for me to understand how to get on Amazon.
Cool.
All
Nikki,
right.
anything else you want to add?
No, the only thing I want to say is that this is a long-term game, that if you are truly invested and interested in your product going the long miles, then you've got to go the long miles with it. And it's a tight partnership to be able to work together with experts like myself and others at 52 Launch. But it is truly a partnership that we have to work hand in hand, and we have to go the long miles together. So we're here running alongside you as long as you're running too.
I call that the grind.
So we're gonna end this podcast. Nikki, stay on the line for a second after we're done.
All right, cool. Well, guys, thank you out there for watching, and we look forward to having more information come your way for the education purposes of getting a product to market. Have a great day.
Thank you.